Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. Samudar Pratap Singh. Moscow has witnessed one of its deadliest terror attacks as gunmen opened fire and detonated explosives into the Crocus City Hall concert venue, killing at least 115 people. Hours after the attack, the Islamic State Khorasan, which is an affiliate of the Islamic State in Afghanistan, has named responsibility of the attack. The attack has left the concert hall in flames. So far, 11 people, including 4 suspected gunmen, in connecting with the incident have been arrested. This is not the first terror attack in Russia in which the Islamic State has been implicated. In 2017, the IS was responsible for bombing in the Petersburg metro that killed 15 and injured 45. On the 7th of March, Russia's FSB security services received intel that terrorists from an international organization are preparing an attack on a synagogue in the Kaluga region near Moscow. Now, the security service had prevented the attack then, and within hours, the US Embassy issued a warning for American citizens to avoid large gatherings and in particular concerts. It is being speculated that the ISIS-K has been fixated on Russia for the past 2 years after Putin intervened in the Syrian war in 2015 and supported President Bashar al-Assad against the opposition in the Islamic State. Meanwhile, the former president of Russia has suspected Ukraine's involvement in the attack and also said if the links of the attack are traced back to Kyiv, then those involved must be tracked down. On the other hand, Ukraine officials have insisted that they had no links to the attack. Joining us at this point is J.K. Tripathi, former ambassador. We also have Robindra Sachdev, international affairs expert, joining us live. Dr. Wael Awad, international affairs expert, also with us live. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, also joins us on the broadcast. Let me begin with you first, Ambassador Tripathi, on what you make of this really shocking incident that has taken place in Russia and who you believe is responsible.
There is a big echo. I can't understand. I couldn't make it out properly. Can you please?
Can you hear me, Ambassador Tripathi?
Yes, but there is a big echo.
I'll tell them to correct that, but if you can hear me, then please do answer, because we can hear you perfectly, on what you make of this attack and who you believe is responsible. I think we don't have Ambassador Tripathi, unfortunately. Let me bring in Robindra Sachdev, if he can hear me. Robindra, shocking attack. Who's behind it? What do you make of it?
Oh, certainly. I mean, a shocking attack. Now, as to who's behind it, I think we do not know yet. Of course, the intelligence services of the Russians and maybe to some extent the Americans have a better understanding. But what it seems on the face of it is that, one, of course, the obvious facts are that ISIS Khorasan has claimed credit for this, that they are the ones who've done it. So on the face of it, this is it. And as you said in your opening remarks, that one reason for the ISIS-K could be due to Russia's support of the Assad regime in Syria, wherein they are going after ISIS modules or groups, right? So that is one on the face of it. But yes, there are quite a few, let's say, I wouldn't say rumors, but yeah, such, conspiracy ideas also floating around. One of them, I don't know, but for the mere sake of mentioning it, is that Ukrainians could have been behind it. They could be the ones who could have instigated the ISIS, maybe paid them money as mercenaries to go ahead and do it. I really do not know, and I would absolutely discount it as of yet, but that is one aspect which is floating around. Another aspect which is floating around within Russia is that the Russian intelligence knew about it. I mean, these are cynical views which are out there, right? That the Russian intelligence knew about it, but they purposefully did nothing to prevent it because they wanted to blame Ukraine and and consequent to that, escalate the conflict with Ukraine into a war and leading to a mobilization. So the idea that, there'll be a mobilization of 100,000 to 200,000 Russians into the army could be linked to it. I mean, these are pure speculations which are out there. But yes, the first instance is that the ISIS-K has, claimed credit for this.
Yes, which of course does indicate perhaps a sinister plot that will now be needed to be looked at very, very closely. But Gautam Mukherjee, come in here on the group that has claimed responsibility so far and who you believe could have possibly plotted this, and do you believe perhaps reasons could be stemming from the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, or is it too early to say?
Well, the ISIS-K, if you take it on face value, has carried this out, and it reminds me quite a lot of 26/11. terms of 4 gunmen shooting people at random, killing 45, injuring nearly 200, blowing the entire place up, setting it on fire. I think it has achieved several objectives. One is ISIS-K was fading with concerted attacks on it from the Americans, from the Taliban, and other groups. So they had been reduced to just a few thousand, if that. And now, not only the last dastardly attack was, of course, at the Kabul airport in 2021. Thereafter, they've also attacked an a Russian embassy, killed 2 Russians and 8 people in all. And now this is more of an international attack, which raises the question, how did they get into Moscow and organize their logistics in such a manner? It raises points about who facilitated this within Russia. One is, as Rovinder suggested, that it could be Ukraine who instigated it. Paid for it, if you like. But it takes more than that to come into Moscow and attack people at a youth gathering, more or less, in this manner. So there are facilitators in Russia, in the Russian capital, and this is something that I'm sure President Putin is going to look into very carefully and try and catch all the perpetrators who are essentially Russian facilitators. ISIS-K, one can understand they have multiple reasons for resentment. They resent that Putin gets on better with the Taliban, whom they don't like. The various Islamic extremist diktats, which Putin does not follow and has clamped down upon in Russia. And that may not go down well with them, but that's not really it. And we have come to Russia and attacked Moscow. So that is something which is very worrisome as far as the Russian state is concerned. Uday.
Yes, let me take that across to Dr. Awad. Dr. Awad, very, very concerning. It's one of the deadliest attacks in recent times. What do you make of the fact that the ISIS-K has claimed responsibility? Would you take their claim at face value? What is the sinister plot, perhaps, that is still, now being plotted against Russia after this, after this incident, of course, perhaps showed of what perhaps may come in the days ahead too?
Well, I'm sure that whoever have done this operation is well known that these are, nowadays we are using the terrorism as a tool to achieve a political objectives, because the timing of this operation, had it been the Russian, the Ukraine or the ISIS behind it, they understand the paradigm of this war on Russia, Ukraine. So therefore, I think it will be a game changer in the coming days after this operation, because Russia will not stay quiet. If the Ukrainian government is behind it, I'm sure that Kyiv will pay a hefty price, despite the fact that they are already losing on the ground. But the fact of the matter remains that this kind of sort of an operation and the modus operandi have been carried out. It shows that these terrorists have been well trained, well armed, and they know where to fire. They know what they are doing. And also there have been reports that they have been also a given guarantee of escaping from the operation theater, which means there are people involved as Mr. Mokharji Sheikh and other panelists that we have seen, that there is a huge, intelligent failure in finding out who is behind and how this happened. Having said that, I would say that the Russian also saying that they have captured 11 of the suspects. 4 of them are directly involved in this operation. So let us wait to see the investigation where it will lead. But I think the timing have two objectives here to achieve. One is the Poland, the Germans, the French have already piling their troops inside the cities of Ukraine, and that is a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO now, which is giving sign of widening of this war. And the second, if the Khorasan have claimed the ISIS, it's also, we all know that there are 55,000 terrorists that are still sheltered by the American in whole camps inside Syrian territory in the northern eastern part of Syria, where the Americans still occupy that part of Syria. So therefore, we know that there are hands involved. There are also Turkey is involved, somehow directly or indirectly, maybe in giving some training of these terrorist organizations. So I think all speculation has to be taken in consideration till we really come to the concrete investigation to find out who is behind this operation.
Yes, indeed. Also, as far as, this incident, of course, goes, do you believe we need to also perhaps increase the Russians need to overhaul the security, set up on ground, because this clearly shows it's not foolproof, Dr. Awad?
Well, see, this is a kind of terrorist organization, and sleeping cells can do anywhere activity. As Mr. Mukherjee said, reminded us of the 26/11. We have been there, we witnessed, we have seen in Syria what they have been doing, we have seen in Iraq, in Iran. So these are sleeping cell or net cells of terrorists can be active anywhere. So nobody can give you 100% guarantee of such kind of operation. And don't forget that Russia is also at war with the European, with the American, with the intelligence, not only because they are supporting Syria. It is not a question of supporting Syria. They have a military bases in Syria, and that's the only military base in the Mediterranean. So it is not a war that is only in isolation because they are supporting Syria. It has nothing to do with that. Has something to do with Russia fighting the European and the American hegemony in this part of the world.
Okay, let me take that to Ambassador Tripathi. Are you back with us now? Can you hear me, Ambassador Tripathi?
But again, the problem still remains that your voice is...
If you can hear me, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go ahead with your perspective on this story, if you can hear me? Because we can hear you perfectly.
Better.
Okay, I don't think he's there with us, unfortunately. Let me go back to Robinder Sachdev. Robinder Sachdev, come in here on, on now, of course, many linking this also to Putin's support to Syria. Is that a fair assessment as well?
Thank you, Uday. Yeah, could be. Right now we are speculating at the vectors which could be. So definitely one element could be that, Putin's support to the Syrian regime and therefore, anti-ISIS. But there's another cynical view, which is that the Russians knew it and they purposefully let it happen so that they can leverage and play this against Ukraine. So in this game of spy versus spy, I don't think we know much at this point. But yes, these are factors. One little thing I'll say in this discussion which we were having. See, Russia itself has a good number of Muslim population. So perhaps it's not that, people from outside Russia have gone in. Dagestan, Chechen, Ingush areas, the Caucasus, right? These areas, you've traditionally had people who have been radicals, also in fact mafias, the famous Russian mafias of Chechen, Ingush, etc., are in these which are, heavily criminalized mafia gangs. In fact, once upon a time, I was kidnapped in Moscow by a Chechen gang. That's another story. So these could be people from within Russia itself. Okay, very much from within Russia itself. Yes, definitely, radicalized or converted by the ISIS ideology. So it would be so, it's like people moving within Russia. So, but yes, there is an intelligence failure of the Russian intelligence, we could say the domestic, apart from the international aspect. So there is some failure without doubt. How else could something like this happen? But probably, it may be probable, I think, that these folks are Russians from within Russia itself. But yes, if they're claiming, allegiance to ISIS, then they're radicalized extremist Muslims and believing in the ideology of ISIS. Now, what could be the reasons which, triggered their masterminds to, go ahead and launch this attack could be a different set of reasons, maybe regarding Syria, maybe regarding anti-Putin because of, Putin getting closer to Taliban, or there could be several other reasons for the ISIS. And remember, ISIS has a differentiation with Taliban because ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they want, or they say that jihad should continue always and it should be an ever ongoing affair. Taliban, whereas said that, okay, fine, we had jihad, we have now Afghanistan. Taliban says we'll focus on Afghanistan, more or less, right? So that has been the dispute between the Al-Qaedas and ISIS with Taliban. They are the more radical versions, if it could be more radical than the Taliban. But they want to spread their ideas of jihad and all in this entire, Central Asian region and all, when they're calling it Khorasan, that includes Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, etc. In fact, some parts of it reach even to India when they say, ISIS-K. So within that, context, it certainly is a failure of the Russian intelligence. And it definitely, it hurts Putin. It hurts his, not only image, of course, but the reality that, it hurts Putin and Putin's image and standing and credibility within the country if it has been designed by anybody else also.
Yes. Now, reportedly, the US did send warnings to Russia. Do you believe they were ignored? Was the US intelligence proven correct in this particular instance, Gautam? I don't think Gautam can hear me. Rabinder, why don't you take that?
Yes, I can hear you.
Rabinder Sajde.
Your question was, do you think that...
Okay, Gautam, yes. The US intelligence wasn't ignored.
I don't know if it was ignored, but certainly the timing of it suggests that Putin is being challenged. Whether he's being challenged through proxies soon after his fifth consecutive win is a speculation well worth the reckoning. Now, American intelligence might have said something, but it usually tends to be a little vague. This is a very specific planned attack. And to all intents and purposes, I do not think this has much to do with the Western forces or to do with Ukraine, but it has quite a lot, according to me, about a challenge to Putin from within. Now, whether this is coming from the former Chechens, Chechnya was brutally annexed, but the Chechens became good friends. In fact, they are one of the most ferocious fighting arm of Russia in Ukraine. So, as a whole, I wouldn't think it's the Chechens. Random radicals, disgruntled elements. Again, I don't think so. These people have been put up for the job. I
think we've lost Gautam, unfortunately. Rabinder, why don't you come in there on the US intelligence warnings, which perhaps were ignored?
Yeah, certainly. As Gautam was saying, it's surprising that the US intel, which has come to notice now, was pretty precise. The US advisory was that there could be impending attacks on large public gatherings, especially concerts. So that's pretty accurate if we were to look back in hindsight, which is 2020. Definitely. So apparently, see, the US shared this with the Russian intelligence. Now, what the Russian intelligence did with it or how seriously it took is another matter. But also the fact is that just a few days before, it was a public advisory by the US embassy to Americans to stay away. So, as a public advisory, then it was known to everybody, and including to the Russian intelligence also, other than the fact that they would have communicated through official channels also, which is being said, but we don't know how much. So either the information was conveyed to the FSB, they acted on it perhaps, but they could not, nail it or stop it on time, or maybe they ignored it or they didn't take it that seriously. That all would perhaps come out through some inquiry, but we would never know the results of any such inquiries as to what happened.
Gautam, are you back with us? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, you can complete yourself.
Yeah.
I'm
Now-
back.
Yes, Gautam.
Now, is that for me?
Yes, absolutely. We are waiting for you. We lost you earlier. We want to complete. You want to complete your point?
Yeah, my point is that it is a Russian attack on Putin using ISIS-K as the red herring. I think Putin is going to get to the bottom of this, uproot it, root and branch, and this is not going to be treated as just any other attack. It isn't just killing a lot of innocents. It is challenging the power of the Russian state. I don't think the Americans and the Ukrainians and so on are involved. I think this is a challenge from within. Uday.
Okay, it could be a challenge from within. Yes, Ambassador Tripathi, please go ahead now if you can finally hear me.
Yes, now it is all right. Now, I feel as regards American intelligence input to Russia, as Americans are claiming, I seriously doubt it. Given the current relationship between the two countries, I doubt whether USA intelligence will ever inform the Russians about this. They would rather be happy that there are internal disturbances in Russia because of these type of attacks. So, secondly, what I feel is that ISIS-K, which has claimed responsibility, there might be three big reasons. One is that growing Russia's relationship with Taliban under the influence of China is a cause of concern for not only America, the USA, but also for ISIS-K, which is deadly against the Taliban. Secondly, you see Russia's recent policies targeting the religious groups in Caucasus, including Chechnya, also might have angered ISIS-K because these outfits, they are in a race to outdo each other in extremism or in terrorism. The third is, recently Putin has declared that hijab was not part of the traditional Islam, but it was a later addition to the Islam by others. So that also has angered ISIS. And as regards USA probably is trying to kill two birds with one stone, trying to show that they are anti-terrorism even if it takes place in Russia, and at the same time they will be kindling the fire to have more internal disturbances in Russia. So that's what I feel about this incident.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.